Afternoon, people. So just going to do a weekly reflection, just kind of discuss the week that's just passed, my sort of trades I took that week. So last week I took 4 trades last week. So the sort of outcome for me was total trades taken was 4, total days traded was 3. My actual gain total for that week was plus 1.1%, and my total analysis gain for the week was actually plus 0.5. So, what that tells me is my management of trades meant I got a little bit extra than if I didn't have any sort of management at all. So that's obviously good to see in a sense, because my management is typically one of my strong points, but I am trying to adapt to allow my analysis to play it a little bit more and trust that more. So I'm just in the replay tool, and this was not the week that just passed, but the previous, and this is sort of what I was looking for. I do have my weekly outlook areas, or where I believe was best areas to buy and sell from, just in terms of clean structure. So I had a little buy area above here. This is solely based on being above 4-hour resistance zone, also being above this 4-hour support, and it is above this sort of resistance zone here, and that's where those clean buys above, when we broke this previous week, clean buys above. So in my opinion, if price comes back above here, it should provide opportunity to buy. That was an option to buy for me as well. Next option was above here, so if price continues to push above this resistance, buys make sense above here to target into the previous monthly high. And then of course, just scrolling out again, buys above this 4-hour support, which is also daily resistance. If we can get above here and remain above, makes sense to push up to the high, the resistance zone. Then again, if we get further, buys above here and so on. So that was what I'd marked out going into the week. I obviously don't know if price is going to get there, but it just means that I have a plan for when price does, and if it does for sales. Sales were going to be below the 4-hour structure here, and then of course sales again below this 4-hour structure. My sort of thought was, if price can get below here and hold below, there's clean structure left in this area to push into this previous structure. And then of course if you get down further, so if I just bring forward the week, this is the week that just went by, so we can clearly see that this week, the previous week, sorry, closed above resistance in the resistance zone, and this week just passed has basically not really went anywhere. It's pushed bearish but respected the previous candle, respected the resistance, and it's closed bullish but with a very small body. But what I do like about how the week did close was that it's just closed above this weekly and daily support. So if we can remain above this zone here, if we can remain above here, there's greater chance of upside. So I'll be looking at that into my sort of weekly outlook. But just looking at the 4-hour, I will just bring on my trades. Let me just do this. Yeah, so these are my trades from the week. I'll just kind of discuss and go through Monday first and foremost. So if I just come out of the replay tool, we look at Monday. Leading into my session, I have a bullish candle, bit of indecision. We then have a session candle, which is a London session, which pushes up above 4-hour resistance in the 4-hour resistance zone. And I then got involved in a trade based on the hourly chart above this candle, and price did push into a profitable position. I reflected on the session itself, it was a mixed bias. I didn't really fancy buying in here because I was more so waiting for this, because in my eyes, this was the cleaner area to buy based on buys above there before. So I wasn't keen buying within a 4-hour support zone, or sorry, within a 4-hour range into daily support. Sort of marked up this was the cleaner area, so I was happy to wait. But obviously reflecting back on this session, I think although there was a gap here, these are clean candles down. Looking even left again when we're in this area, there's clean movement. So there's no reason why I couldn't have maybe get into an option here, something like this, and maybe look to just test into the 4-hour resistance and just see what happens. But I think looking back in that session, there was an option for me to get in earlier than when I actually get in. And with this trade, I actually took 2 trades on this. So the first trade, which was this one, I entered on the 1-hour. As soon as this closed, I just put in an order of buy above, stops below. This is higher support on the 30-minute. And then I'm looking for continuation. But on the 15, when this candle goes bullish, sort of put in like a new high above this resistance, I just moved my stop loss to below that candle. So we then come down and it tapped me out, and I took a loss there of like 0.1. I understood that like this could have been just a deeper pullback for continuation, but the way I looked at it was, well, if it isn't and this is going to reject and go hard, I could just get out for a very small loss and then save myself a potential full loss or a more of a loss, and then I can just always re-enter. And that's exactly what I did. I re-entered the position once price sort of come down and form support then on the 30-minute, because we've sort of had a lot of hours of upside on the 1-hour chart. There hasn't been any sort of pullback or resistance formed on the 1-hour. So when we got above here, and this traffic here maybe isn't as clean as this is where price started to slow down. So on the 30-minute chart, when price formed a support here and started to break back above, I just give it another shot. I used a bit of a tighter stop, and I just closed on this candle. I believe it was like 8 minutes to 2 p.m. So the new 4-hour candle was going to open. I'm already at resistance that we failed to break and close above earlier in the day. So I thought it was a good place to just close my full position. So I kind of closed that position out there. And the new hour opened here at 2. Sort of had a pullback before continuation. So that was Monday. Going into Tuesday, this was obviously the best trade of the week, I would say. I come into the session, open 2 a.m, my session candle, bullish bias. The reason I didn't buy was because we had already completed the sort of 4-hour triangle to the resistance here. So we're sort of, I could say, I'm at target on the 4-hour, not a higher time frame resistance. I look at the 1-hour chart, but I could have just like kind of similar to what happened on Monday, where we sort of trickle up to the resistance on Asian range. Price puts in a nice candle like it did here, like it did there. There's no reason why I can't get involved at London Open, where there's more than likely volume or a greater chance of volume, to push into a profitable position and see what happens. There's, if we look at the day before and look at what happened at 8 o'clock, we have a big bullish candle on Monday at London Open, 35 pip candle or so. Same again here, you look at London Open, you have a 60 pip candle on the 1-hour. So I seen this setting up and I said to myself, you know what, I'm not going to get involved. I'm happy to just sit this one out. But given what price done, looking back, I could have got involved in this. It makes a lot of sense. We're bullish in the market with a bullish bias. We're leading into a volume time. There's an option here to get in on the break, and there's plenty of room to the upside there to see what happens at the next area of interest and potentially push up into this resistance target or the overall zone. Again, from the previous weekly outlook, target would be to fill the previous monthly high, so that was achieved as well. And then when we sort of came up to this area, which was made sense to buy above on the 4 hour and on the daily, which is daily resistance, price then had a former reaction and wasn't able to hold support or structure above. So that's where price then rolled over. So like this is definitely, I think looking back on this day and reflecting, I definitely allowed this area here and these areas and these monthlies and dailies to put me off getting involved in a trade. And there was a lot of pros, cons for this trade, which looking back, I should have put myself in that position, or there's no reason for me not to. See what happens. How I could have approached this trade on the 1 hour chart, which I like, is enter on the break. I could have my stops below either that candle or below the low here. I could then look to see that this isn't enough for me to get into trade, but I could use this as a watch area, then use this as a watch area, then maybe target up into the high. Again, it's London Open, so I'm anticipating or knowing that there's a greater chance of stronger push. So that means I can then trust in that, trust in my analysis, and see what happens. This could have potentially been a really good trade. And trusting in that volume to see price continue and push. And it's interesting when you go down the time frames how we close above the daily support, price then pulls back, rejects, continues. Look at it on the 15-minute time frame, we break above, and then even look at it on the 5. Is there any form of like price holding support? Yeah, again, like look at these levels on, look at the monthly resistance, you look at the daily support, price closed above, we're able to remain above. Price closed above, pull back, taps it, hold support, continuation. During this trade here, there was options. I obviously had this area as buys above this area, but price was in so much momentum that there wasn't no way for me to get into buys above here. Especially on a time frame I'm comfortable with, like a 30-minute or a 1 hour. 15-minute, there isn't any areas to get in. The only area to get in above here is going to be lower time frame, which I'm not so comfortable with at the moment, so it doesn't sort of fit the bill for me. Also looking back on this trade, or on this session, sorry, there's an option here to buy 9 o'clock. I really like this option. We're clearly in momentum. Price puts in a little resistance and pauses. Next candle bullish, closes above, press buy here. Stop loss can go below here, and again we're in momentum, so we're looking for continuation. And you can look left to maybe target a level there, target up to the high. And the way I could manage this trade as well, if price comes back below my entry candle, I could manage that. Look at it on the 5-minute. What does the 5-minute show in terms of structure? Not so much, but I could then use this little resistance zone here and say, well, I don't want price to come below this. And we can clearly see that when this candle closed above, when price has been getting above, it's rejecting the resistance, failing to break below, and then popping to the upside. So I could then use that as a management technique. Price comes below, close the trade. So Tuesday was definitely the best day of the week for options and continuation. Just looking at Wednesday then. just let me hit that. The fifth, third. Yeah, I think I was literally just looking at my spreadsheet for this week, and 1, 2, 3, 4. I had a total of 4 trades. However, the return is actually different. I've actually included total two, four. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the fifth, sixth, and the third. Fifth, sixth, and third. Yeah. So I've forgot to include my 2 trades on Monday on my um on my spreadsheet. So what I mentioned prior in terms of what my actual game was for the week is actually incorrect. Um, so my actual gain for the week then is 5.6. Yeah, it actually is that. You know what? I think I might have just, yeah, I've got the dates. Yeah, that's what it is. It is correct. I just obviously got the date wrong. So yeah, just let's say ignore what I said. But yeah, going on to the week. So we've got Monday and Tuesday out the way. We'll look at Wednesday then. Wednesday, this is where we are. So structure is still intact to the upside. But when I come to the session here, we've kind of got the open. So price comes. The way I'm sort of looking at this when I come to the session is price is putting in higher highs, right? We then come back and we put in higher support above the previous. But then the next we can't continue, and the next candle then puts in a bearish candle. So essentially, in my opinion, this candle here has changed, potentially changed. This is potentially a change in structure to the downside because we have closed below this support. So this is the open candle of Wednesday. 4 hour. Next candle session, the 2 a.m. candle, bullish. So we have a mixed bias, but we're clearly below the previous support. So prices then put in this, right? And this candle here, this bullish one, has worked the whole way up to this resistance, rejected the resistance, and also closed below the support. So when I looked at this, I said to myself, well, what makes more sense? And to me, it made more sense to sell. And the reason it made more sense to sell was because we're sort of below that support. So I was thinking to myself, well, price breaks up to the upside. I already know where's best to buy, potentially above here, or even maybe just wait and trade above here, which is above this resistance. But if price doesn't, and we fail and we start to break down and we break this support, we break the low of this, which is also the 4-hour support. My idea, my thought was, well, price can then push down into this area, right? Into this support zone, especially if it's at a time around volume. There's a chance to see these levels broken in continuation. Once we break this support, we're trading in the zone of the support, so this is all reactionary. We could break to the upside or reject. As soon as we break that, we're then entering another 4-hour support, which has a zone all the way down here. This zone is also a daily resistance and a daily resistance zone, so it is like multiple levels and multiple zones. So that tells me it's a tough area to trade. I would consider this high risk trade because of where price is in the market position. So looking at this trade itself, I actually got involved in this trade on the 30-minute chart, and the way I seen it was we're Asian ranges here. We're sort of, as you can see, price is sort of trending to the downside. London opens, we push up, volume in the market, the size of the candle, the next candle, 8:30 candle, still momentum in the market, closes below Asian range, but it doesn't close below the 4-hour support. It actually rejects the support or closes just above it. So what I wanted to do was enter below the low of the candle, and it's also below the 4-hour support. So I based this trade off the 30-minute. And what I seen was, well, if price is going to break below here and potentially break out of this 4-hour zone and this 30-minute support, where is the next level of interest on this time frame? For me, it was down at this support, because this is literally the next support on 30-minute. So if we're leaving this, target it down to here. So this is where, reflecting back on that session, I actually took a minor loss on this trade, and the way I managed this trade was, when I entered the trade, I was going to manage my position if price comes back in the Asian range. But when price pushed down and started reacting off this 4-hour support, because it's a high risk area, I said to myself, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at structure on lower time frames. 15-minute doesn't have any. I look at the 5, and what I said to myself was, well, prices closed below 4-hour support, pulled up, formed a lower resistance, and now it's pushed back down. It's pushed up, and it's also reacted at this resistance, and now it's pushing down. So what I done was, I then just moved my stop loss above the highs here, and it says, you know what, it's a high risk area, there's a chance of reaction because there's 4-hour support, daily resistance, we're entering one zone, leaving another zone, so there's a chance the price could just react anywhere. It's not the best area to trade. So I got taken out for a small loss. Price then traveled all the way up, came within like 1 pip of my stop, which was based on the 30-minute, above this candle, this sort of high here, this, or not the high, sorry, the body, and then it rolled over the target. So reflecting back, the management of this trade was actually quite good, because based on where we are, I took a more aggressive approach, and it worked out, because if I didn't manage where I managed, I would have managed above here and taken like 0.5% loss. Even though the analysis played out, I don't think I wouldn't have allowed price to come all the way back. But I think in reflection, I was targeting the wrong area. I should have been targeting the higher time frame level, this 4-hour support here, which would have been about 0.4, 0.5% profit. This would have been the most sensible thing to do, because, like, as much as I'm saying to myself, we're maybe in momentum, just because we're in momentum doesn't mean we're going to get past every level. And I think, based on market position and being in multiple zones and at different areas, I think it would have been sensible to just close out here, or have my actual profit target here. So that was that. So it was a minor loss. But just another thing to touch on as well. When I was in this trade, I was saying, like, because I want to trust my analysis more, so I was more inclined to move my stops and adjust them to allow the trade to potentially play out, rather than take profit here. So I think I just need to find sort of like a happy medium and a balance between trusting my analysis more, but also being content and being sensible with profit target and target areas. But everything is relative to structure. So that was Wednesday. And then if we go into Thursday, I got involved in this buy. Now, Thursday, coming to the session, we have a bearish bias. We have 1 bearish candle, 2 bearish candles. So, in my opinion, sales make sense. I also have where I want to sell from. Sales below here with structure. So when I came to the chart and price was trading in here, I already knew it didn't make sense to sell until we're at least below these candles. Maybe even this work, depending on what's forming and stuff. So I knew that's where I was only going to look to sell from. Doesn't make sense for me to sell into these levels because they've all rejected. And then I got involved in buys, but the reason I got involved in buys because, as much as it was a bearish session and it made sense to sell at a specific area, it also made a lot of sense to buy from here. And the reason being is if we look left, prices at previous structure on the 4 hour. One thing that stood out to me was 4, 8, 12, 16. For 16 hours, price has failed to continue. It's failed to even close below the support zone. This candle just closed below the support, but realistically it looks more of a rejection based on the bottom wick being bigger than the higher wick, or the top wick, sorry. So when I looked at this on the 1 hour, it made so much sense to buy when we're struggling to break down. There's also change in structure on the 30-minute to the upside. Lower resistance, higher support, equal support you could say, or equal resistance, I don't know, but the fact is I'm looking at what I'm looking at here is support, higher support, close outside the zone. When that candle closed outside the zone, I got involved in this trade on the 1 hour chart, placed my stops below, and I looked left and I said to myself, leading, this was at 7 a.m. by the way, and there was some news for GDP at 7 a.m. So I sort of used the news to my advantage, and when I looked at the news, the previous history for the news was previous 2 times the outcome was bullish. And looking at Forex Factory, it was actually scheduled. Forecast was supposed to be better numbers, which was good for the pound. So I looked at that and says, right, okay, this could potentially be positive for the pound. If I look at technicals and just look at structure and what price is doing, we're failing to break down for 16 hours. We can't continue. We're at 4 hour support. We're above Asian range. We're breaking structure. We're changing structure to the upside. Plus, there's a potential catalyst to support a push. Made so much sense for me to buy, so I bought. Price then pushed with the news. I said to myself, targets, right? Because if I looked at the previous trade and says, right, I should have targeted here. Pushing here was maybe not so sensible, or maybe not the right idea. So I said to myself, if we break this level in this zone, where does it make more sense to get to? Well, in my opinion, this is structure. So if we break this, we should push up to here, right? Based on structure. So price pushed. Again, I could have targeted here. I could have targeted the most recent structure. But it doesn't make sense to target that. I could then push up to here. But I'm thinking to myself, there's volume here. If we push, what's to say price just doesn't stop and continues? Again, we've also got London open. Maybe that could be a catalyst as well, or potentially more volume. So price pushed, closed. I think in and around here was like 1-to-1 risk reward. I actually closed this position out in full for 0.7 plus 0.7%. The reason I closed was it was 8 minutes to London Open, or 2 minutes to London Open, one or the other. Price was also within this 4 hour support zone, above this 4 hour support, and I sort of just said to myself, well, we're sort of in a bit of a tricky area. I know volume is pushed. I was 0.3% away to achieving 1-to-1 risk reward, so I said to myself, if I'm up +7, for the sake of +3, because I was thinking to myself, I might just close at 1-to-1 because I'll be done then, right? I don't need to get all the way up here. So I decided to just close it. London Open opened and it pushed and achieved 1-to-1. And then we can see the price then pulled back to structure, pushed again, pulled back to structure, pushed again. Friday opened here. Well, this is during Asian session on Friday. Then London Open, pre-London Open, sorry, at 7 a.m. Price pushed and hit profit. So this trade, I got involved in the trade. It was returning like near enough 2-to-1 risk reward. It closed out the position for +7%, plus 0.7%, sorry. But the analysis eventually play it out. I don't think I would have, like, as much as I want to trust my analysis, right? I think holding through this drawdown, then pushing almost up to like 1.5, then seeing it come all the way back, and then having to, stall and don't know what's happening to eventually get there. Like, I'm not, I'm not annoyed or disappointed that I got out when I did. I'm actually pleased because I sort of listened to what I feel to do the day before, in terms of maybe just action at a level. So when we sort of got into this area here, I said to myself, do you know what? Probably makes sense just get out, right? Well, I did. But price did eventually hit target. It did take like what I don't know, mate, near enough another day, full day for price to then hit that target. There's a lot of whipsaw in here. Um, so again, it's just sort of comfortability. I don't think I would have been comfortable seeing price get all the way up here to come all the way back down. I didn't want to take pieces of the position, stuff like that. I was trying to get in the trade and see if we can just push with volume. I don't like to stay in trades too long, but again, sometimes it can take that amount of time. But that was sort of the week, and then Friday was of course bank holiday, or it's Easter, so I just didn't trade Friday and look at Friday, barely any movement. So that was my week. The reflection of the week. 4 trades total, 3 days traded. Total of what? Just over 1% gain for the week. So a bit of a tough week in terms of, like, you look at my chart and it looks so messy. There's so many colors, so many zones and stuff. So I do need to clean this up. But these definitely do help me in terms of where I want to trade above or below or not into. But yeah, that's sort of just my weekly reflection. My sort of trades taken that week, and just little bits of information about what I maybe could have done better, and how I could have approached certain things. But that is that. So I'll get this one uploaded as well. So what's that, pushing on 32 minutes? God, that's a long one. But hopefully these will get shorter in the future.